In sociology and economics, gambling is defined as the act of placing something of value, usually money, i.e., a stake, on an event with an uncertain outcome, with the primary intention of winning more value. It is an ancient human activity, evolving from simple games of chance in antiquity to today's highly complex, global online and offline industry. Although gambling is often viewed as a form of entertainment, its inherent structural characteristics dictate that the vast majority of participants will face long-term capital losses. To deeply understand this phenomenon, we must recognize that the house always wins in the long run is not a matter of accidental luck, but an inevitable outcome resulting from a series of sophisticated designs and inherent human cognitive biases. This structural inevitability is fundamentally rooted in its unshakable mathematical foundation. At the core of all commercial gambling activities lies a solid mathematical cornerstone, the house edge or casino advantage. This is a quantitative metric used to express the mathematical profit margin that the house, i.e., the game provider, holds over the player in long-term operation. This advantage is not achieved through fraud or manipulation, but is openly and transparently embedded in the game rules and payout structures. The core tools for its realization are probability theory and mathematical expectation, expected value. Mathematical expectation is a statistical concept used to measure the long-term average value of a random variable. In gambling, it represents the theoretical amount a player is expected to win or lose for every unit of stake placed. A perfectly fair game has a mathematical expectation of 0, meaning that long-term participation results in neither profit nor loss. However, in any commercial gambling game, its mathematical expectation is precisely designed to be negative. This means that for every bet a player places, regardless of whether a single outcome is a win or a loss, the mathematical value of their action decreases. We can reveal the mechanism of negative expected value by analyzing specific gambling models. Take a basic commission-based game model as an example. Suppose a game where the player has a 50% chance of winning and losing. The player bets 100 units. If they win, they gain 100 units. If they lose 100 units. However, the rules stipulate that for every win, the player must pay a 5% commission to the platform. Under this rule, the net gain from winning is 95 units, while the loss from losing remains 100 units. The mathematical expected value for this game calculates to -2.5 units. This value clearly indicates that for every 100 units wagered on average, the player will lose 2.5 units in the long run. A single victory brings temporary profit, but as long as participation continues, the total capital will inevitably converge towards this preset negative value. Online gambling platforms are particularly adept at using rule design to obscure the true nature of negative expected value, a common tactic being the introduction of games boasting a high win rate. For instance, a certain game claims a player win rate as high as 70%. The rule states, bet 100 units, if you win, you get back 150 units, including your stake, making a net profit of 50 units. If you lose the entire 100-unit stake. On the surface, a 70% win rate is highly attractive. However, the mathematical expected value calculates to a positive 5 units. This seemingly player-favorable result hides a crucial trap. The win rate advertised by the platform often cannot be guaranteed in reality. As the rule setter and enforcer, the gambling platform has the absolute ability to adjust actual probabilities. By simply reducing the actual win rate from 70% to 60%, the mathematical expected value instantly plummets to -10 units. The platform attracts participants by promoting a theoretically profitable model, then ensures its long-term profitability through opaque back-end mechanisms. This is a common operational strategy in the industry. Consider another, more complex design with a win rate as high as 90%. The rule is, bet 100 units, if you win, you get back 105 units, making a net profit of 5 units. If you lose, your stake is not completely lost, but 50 units are returned, meaning a net loss of 50 units. Under this alluring veneer of winning more, losing less, the mathematical expected value calculates to -0.5 unit, -0.5. This means that even though a player might win 9 out of 10 bets, that one loss is enough to erode all the meager profits from the victories, resulting in a net loss. This design exploits human loss aversion, using small returns to reduce the pain of a single failure, thereby encouraging players to bet for longer periods and more frequently, ultimately and steadily funneling capital to the platform without realizing it. The reason these negative expected value models are 100% realized as profit for the bookmaker in reality is due to the underlying law of large numbers. The law of large numbers is a core theorem in probability theory, stating that as the number of trials in a random experiment increases, the actual frequency of an event occurring will infinitely approach its theoretical probability. In gambling, single or a few results are filled with randomness, and players might profit due to luck. This is known as variance or fluctuation. However, once the number of bets is sufficiently large, this short-term random fluctuation will be smoothed out by mathematical laws, and the actual overall return rate will precisely converge to that preset negative mathematical expected value. Casinos and online platforms precisely leverage this by offering massive, rapid betting opportunities, allowing the law of large numbers to take effect in the shortest possible time, thereby transforming the theoretical house edge into actual, stable business revenue. Therefore, for players, the longer they participate in gambling and the more bets they place, the closer their results will approach mathematical certainty of loss. However, an obvious question arises. If gambling is mathematically a losing game, why do hundreds of millions of people worldwide continue to engage in it? To answer this, we must move beyond cold mathematics and delve into the complex realm of human psychology. The persistence of gambling behavior is not merely the result of logical misjudgment, but rather an irrational behavior driven by a series of powerful psychological mechanisms. The most central mechanism stems from B.F. Skinner's theory of operant conditioning, specifically the variable ratio reinforcement schedule. This schedule refers to rewards, or reinforcers, appearing only after an unpredictable, variable number of responses. In gambling, winning is this reward. Players don't know when the next win will occur after how many bets. It could be the next one, or 100 later. This very uncertainty is the catalyst for creating the strongest, most persistent behavioral patterns. Compared to fixed ratio reinforcement, e.g., getting a reward after every 10 tasks, variable ratio reinforcement induces extremely high, sustained response rates in organisms, including humans, and the behavior is extremely difficult to extinguish. Slot machines are the perfect embodiment of this principle. Their unpredictable reward patterns make players endlessly and almost frantically press buttons, just like laboratory rats trained under similar programs. The powerful drive generated by this mechanism often overrides an individual's rational understanding of negative expected value. Building upon this underlying drive of variable ratio reinforcement, a series of cognitive distortions further solidify gamblers' irrational beliefs, leading them to seek seemingly rational explanations for their continued betting behavior. The most famous of these is the gambler's fallacy, which is the erroneous belief that a series of independent random events are somehow connected, and that past events can predict future outcomes. For example, in roulette, if red appears 5 times consecutively, many players will believe that black should appear next, and consequently increase their bets on black. However, each spin of the roulette wheel is an independent probabilistic event, and previous results have no bearing on the future. This tendency to seek patterns in randomness is a mental shortcut formed during human brain evolution, but when faced with pure games of chance, it becomes a fatal trap. Related to this is the illusion of control, where players believe they can influence a purely probabilistic outcome through certain skills, rituals, or special knowledge. For example, forcefully throwing dice to get a high number, or observing so-called card paths or trend charts before betting, believing they've discovered some pattern. These behaviors give players a false sense of control and agency, transforming them from passive recipients of probability into skilled players who can contend with fate. This illusion greatly enhances the appeal of gambling because it fulfills the fundamental human psychological need for environmental mastery. Designers of modern electronic gambling games have taken the near-miss effect to the extreme. When a game result is very close to a win, for example, slot machine symbols are just one off from aligning, or a lottery number is only off by 1 digit, the player's brain does not simply process it as a loss. Instead, reward-related areas in the brain are activated, and the feeling is similar to an actual win. This almost one experience, far from inhibiting betting behavior, strongly stimulates players to make another attempt immediately because it creates the illusion that victory is within reach, thereby significantly extending the player's game time. Beyond these cognitive distortions, the motivations for gambling behavior are also highly complex. For many, gambling is an escape mechanism, a means of temporarily detaching from the stresses, anxieties, boredom, or pain of real life. In the highly focused and stimulating environment of gambling, daily worries are temporarily forgotten, and players can enter a pure world of only wins and losses. Additionally, seeking thrills is a key driving factor. During the gambling process, the risk and uncertainty trigger the brain to release neurotransmitters like dopamine, producing a feeling of excitement, tension, and pleasure, the so-called gambler's high. For some individuals, this intense physiological experience itself is addictive. What they pursue may not be ultimate victory, but rather the emotional fluctuations and physiological arousal during the gambling process. When these psychological mechanisms combine with inevitable losses, they give rise to the most dangerous behavioral pattern in problem gambling: chasing losses. When players experience significant losses, their rational decision-making ability declines sharply. According to prospect theory, the pain humans feel from a loss far outweighs the pleasure derived from an equivalent gain. To escape the immense psychological pain caused by losses, players develop a strong, desperate urge to break even through a bolder gamble, attempting to win back all the money they've lost. At this point, the purpose of gambling has shifted from winning money to not losing. Risk appetite sharply increases, and betting behavior becomes more frequent and reckless, ultimately leading to a vicious cycle of accumulating debt and increasing stakes until personal resources are completely exhausted. The modern gambling industry, especially large-scale online platforms, has developed the aforementioned mathematical principles and psychological insights into a systematic, data-driven operational strategy, far more sophisticated than traditional casinos. Platforms maximize player immersion and betting frequency through carefully designed user interfaces, sound and light effects, and rapid game tempos. Fast-paced lottery games with 1 round per minute, or online Baccarat rounds lasting mere tens of seconds, are designed to accelerate the manifestation of the law of large numbers, allowing players' funds to be eroded by negative expected value in the shortest possible time. The continuous design of games leaves players almost no room for calm reflection, keeping them in a constantly dopamine-driven state of excitement. Bonuses, rebates, and various promotional activities are core tools for online platforms to attract and retain players. These seemingly generous free money offers are actually marketing lures with strict conditions attached. Platforms typically require players to achieve a high amount of betting turnover or wagering requirements before they can withdraw bonuses and winnings. For example, a deposit $100, get $100 bonus offer might require a 20x turnover, meaning the player must cumulatively wager $100 plus $100, asterisk 20 equals $4,000 before they can request a withdrawal. Under the negative expected value game rules, the vast majority of the player's principal and bonus are already devoured by the house edge during the process of fulfilling such high wagering requirements. The purpose of these promotional offers is precisely to ensure that players have sufficient playtime and betting volume on the platform to realize the platform's long-term profitability. Furthermore, the online gambling industry widely employs agent or affiliate marketing models to expand its market. The primary job of agents is to recruit players to the platform, and their core source of income is not based on the player's betting volume, but rather on a certain percentage of the player's net losses. This profit-sharing model creates a fundamental conflict of interest between agents and players. Agents have a strong incentive to induce players to increase their bets and chase losses, because the more players lose, the higher the agent's commission. Many so-called mentor-led teams, or guaranteed win plans, are essentially marketing scams carried out by agents for their own benefit. On a technical level, modern gambling platforms utilize big data analytics and artificial intelligence to build sophisticated risk control and player management systems. Platforms continuously track and analyze each player's behavioral patterns, including betting habits, risk preferences, and fund levels, thereby profiling and categorizing players. For those identified as potential arbitrageurs or professional players with slight technical advantages, the system automatically limits their betting amounts or game access. For high-value customers who exhibit irrational betting behavior and have significant potential to lose money, the platform encourages them to play more through customized promotional offers and customer service. Rumors of targeted killing or back-end manipulation, while difficult to confirm, underscore that platforms undoubtedly possess the technical capability to maximize overall profits through data analysis. Finally, when players manage to secure a substantial profit despite the huge house edge and attempt to withdraw it, they often encounter various withdrawal obstacles. The platform might delay payments using excuses like system maintenance, account review, or incomplete documentation, or set strict daily or per-transaction withdrawal limits. The purpose of these friction points is to wear down the player's patience, inducing them to give up on withdrawing during the wait and reinvest the funds in their account back into gambling. For the platform, every penny in a player's account that hasn't been successfully withdrawn is still a potential source of profit. This entire system, a complex intertwining of mathematical laws, psychological weaknesses, and business strategies, ultimately gives rise to a serious social problem: pathological gambling. Pathological gambling has been officially recognized as a mental disorder by authoritative organizations such as the World Health Organization and the American Psychiatric Association, falling under the category of impulse control disorders or addictive behaviors. It is characterized by persistent, recurrent, and uncontrollable gambling behavior, even when such behavior has caused devastating negative consequences for the individual, family, or career. Its impact is comprehensive, including financial ruin from massive debts and personal bankruptcy, severe mental health issues such as anxiety, depression, and suicidal ideation, impaired social functioning like broken family relationships, job loss, and social isolation, and even engaging in criminal activities like theft and fraud to procure gambling funds. In conclusion, the long-term losses experienced by the vast majority of participants in gambling activities do not stem from bad personal luck, weak willpower, or a lack of some mysterious skill. It is an inevitable product of a multi-layered, systemic problem. Its foundation is the mathematically unbeatable inherent advantage of the house. Its catalyst is the psychological traps that exploit the deep reward mechanisms and cognitive biases of the human brain. Its implementer is the gambling industry, which utilizes modern technology and sophisticated business strategies. From the moment an individual steps into a casino or logs onto a gambling website, they enter an asymmetrical game where the rules are set by the other side, probabilities are tilted in their favor, and their own psychological weaknesses will be fully exploited. In this meticulously constructed system, short-term, accidental victories are merely bait, while long-term, inevitable failure is the ultimate destination. Therefore, a clear understanding of the gambling mechanism is the fundamental prerequisite for preventing its potential harms and making informed personal choices.